Welcome to the Stumble Across podcast. This is the podcast where I basically stumble across people online and invite them on for a chat. Now, this is usually with me knowing very little about them, completely unprepared, completely unfiltered, and as we've discovered, this can lead to uncovering the best stories. Now, in today's episode 20, how are we here already? The pandemic affected our pets too, is the title of this. A very interesting podcast that kind of went in all directions because I stumbled across Pamela from California, a certified hypnotherapist, a former nurse, a pet sitter, and a writer. She describes how being a nurse just wasn't kind of fulfilling her soul, and she felt she just wasn't ever able to do enough for her patients, so went on the search for a new career, stumbled across hypnotherapy, and also we discuss about her other side hobbies, sitting pets, putting the pen to paper as well, writing her books, and also we get into the topic of how the pandemic affected our pets as well. So let's get into today's episode and we will meet Pamela. Don't forget, if you do like the episode, give a little rating, a review, and please don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well.
My name is Pamela Topchian. I am in California in the U.S., and I am a board-certified hypnotherapist, a former nurse, a pet sitter, and I've written my memoir. I didn't come this far to only come this far is the name of it. So that's kind of just my titles and kind of the list of who I am.
Yeah, there's a lot to get through there as well.
Yeah.
So where did it all start off for you? With the hypnotherapy, but should we start there? Is that kind of one of the first things that you started?
Well, I was a nurse.
Okay.
And 2007 is when I started that. And I quickly knew that wasn't really filling up my soul. That wasn't really, making me fulfilled in what I was doing. I didn't feel like I was ever doing enough for my patients. There's a whole, and in the US, the healthcare system I know is different, but that's my second book. I'm actually writing about my nursing career. But in 2007, I started that. And then in 2010, I was looking for a more holistic way to assist people on their healing journey. And through that search for a holistic modality that felt right for me was hypnotherapy is when I found that in 2010. And it wasn't until just 2020 that I was able to completely quit nursing altogether and focus in on hypnotherapy. And being that it was the pandemic and we had all the lockdown and everything, I was able to take a lot of people through phone and through Zoom. And so then I started doing pet sitting on a larger level because for a long time, off and on, I've done pet sitting. But since then, when people started coming out of lockdown a little bit, then I started being able to do that as well at the same time. And now I love everything I do.
And do you feel like, that time of being a nurse, were you a little bit maybe frustrated? Because I know you put yourself in that category now, but
yeah,
was that the reason why?
It was very frustrating. It was very, I like to say that it was soul crushing or soul sucking. It just was so frustrating not being able to do what we knew and what we were taught to do because we didn't have the resources, we didn't have time, we didn't have enough staff. So you're working, anywhere from 12 to 16-hour shifts and, self-care goes completely out of the window, Yeah. So, and during that time as well, I was going through a pretty toxic marriage and finally, had divorced and had a major mental breakdown, which brought me to, writing my book. But that was all sort of part of the transition as well, is having that breakdown and wanting to get out of anything that wasn't feeling good for me.
So it was almost like a reflection period then? You kind of just stopped and looked where to go?
Oh my gosh, yes, definitely a reflection period. Getting to know myself, I would say I never knew myself. And again, writing that book was a huge part of the healing to getting to know myself. I had went through therapy as well. I had some childhood trauma and that led to trauma in my adulthood. And I didn't even realize those dots connected until I was in my 50s and going through a mental breakdown and I went to therapy, only then did I realize, one thing led to another, and that's what got me to that breakdown.
Yeah.
So coming out of that was really a self-reflection for sure.
Mm-hmm. And as for hypnotherapy, then how did you experience it first of all, or did you kind of walk into the unknown?
So the courses that I took for holistic healing was all different. Like, it was just like an introduction to all different types of modalities.
Mm-hmm.
And so as students, we got to experience it as well as learn a little bit about it and practice it ourselves, with other students. So we did get to receive and give. And that's where I really found my calling. It really felt natural. It was just so powerful, that I could see how powerful it could be in really transitioning people's lives.
For anyone who is listening and are quite unsure of those terms, just give a wee quick brief of what is hypnotherapy then.
Yeah, so hypnotherapy is very much like a guided meditation, except we go deeper. The focus is more inward and more on your subconscious to be able to release blocks and help you to succeed in your life, whether it's getting rid of bad habits or just reaching your goals, or even just, self-discovery, just finding out who you really are. A lot of times there are people who feel kind of lost, stuck in life. They're just numb, or they're very anxious and like the opposite of numb, like just really a lot of busyness in their head.
Mm-hmm.
So any of that it can help with. It is nothing like the stage hypnosis. I don't use a stopwatch or any kind of pendulum,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't. You are always in complete control. You're not like put out completely or anything like that. It's more feels like a guided meditation.
Yeah. And on to the EMDR, is that right?
Yeah. So that's eye movement. Yeah, it's quite different. It's eye movement, EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. I don't do that. I received that. I would love to do that, but I think you need to be a licensed therapist to be able to get that sort of certification added onto your license. And in the US anyway, hypnotherapy is a certification. It's not a license.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little,
because I've heard a lot of people who say, particularly if they're trying to stop smoking or they're trying to stop some addictions, like that is the one that they go for.
Right. That's the main thing people think of if they know about hypnotherapy and don't just relate it to the stage hypnosis. Yeah. The main thing people think about is quitting smoking or losing weight. But for me, I like to go deeper because the habits that are self-sabotaging habits or unhealthy habits are kind of just offshoots of that main root of whether it's anxiety, whether it's not having coping skills. So we like to delve a little bit deeper, and then some of those symptoms will go away without even focusing on them.
So, I guess with your line of work, sometimes you're just completely unsure of what is going to come through the door. Is that the exciting part for you?
Well, when you say come through the door, so when I have a new client just reaching out to me, usually they've seen something on social media or they've seen my website. And so they have a pretty good idea already of what I do. And as I said, I know enough other colleagues that I am comfortable, referring to people that I know would be better suited for them, for what they're looking for.
Yeah. You did that just before lockdown, is that right? Just before kind of COVID hit? Yeah.
Right. So I had an office that I could use to see people, and sometimes I would go to people's houses. But then when there was the whole lockdown and everything, and found out that it can work just as well, and sometimes even better when people are in their own house, they're in their favorite recliner, laying down in bed, just relaxing at home, then they are able to let go sometimes a lot easier and a lot quicker. And they feel more safe too. If they're unsure at all, then they feel more safe in their own environment. So, yeah.
It's definitely something we all had to just adapt to, really. I guess it's something that you just had to do, but maybe that's a good thing that came out of it.
For me, it was very good. And I
Mhm.
know that there was plenty of loss, loss of lives, loss of family members, businesses, homes, even. There was lots of
Mhm.
loss, and it was a terrible time for a lot of people. But for me, it really helped me to come out of that slump of nursing and that grind of doing what I didn't want to be doing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then it helped me not to have to close down even with the hypnotherapy, because we could do it through Zoom or
Mhm.
on the phone.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good thing for me.
And I mean, speaking about that time beforehand, being a nurse, how stressful is it? Is it possible to put into words like how stressful of a job that is?
Well, I think that soul sucking is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
pretty good definition. And that's why I said I'm writing my second book. I'm in the editing stages of writing that about my nursing career. Kind of like I don't have a title for it yet. So, maybe your audience wants to chime in,
Yeah.
but it's just,
Mm.
it's just, the truth of nursing, or, the experience for me that was, just beyond frustrating,
Mhm.
beyond burnout. It was just really um, not a great experience for me. And I know that there are plenty of awesome nurses out there, plenty of people that work in healthcare in many capacities, that do an awesome job despite all the setbacks and all what they come up with. They do, there's plenty of people that it's really their calling and they cannot imagine their life without it. And they do a great job. So I don't want people out there who are, students of nursing or who are a nurse themselves to feel like I'm putting anybody down. This is my experience,
Yeah, because in fact, I mean, on this podcast, I think it was a couple episodes ago. Anyway, we had someone who was from New Jersey
Oh,
originally, and they then moved to Scotland, the UK,
yeah.
to do their doctorate. So they were a
Oh,
doctor
yeah.
there, and that's the same thing they say. They went into the job, but they knew the stress and they knew everything behind it. But it was just that love for caring for people. That's the thing
Yeah.
that overtakes. I mean, how long were you involved in nursing for?
14 years.
14 years. Yeah. And I guess
Yeah.
you've seen a lot of changes through that time.
Well, I wouldn't say a lot of changes in nursing, but what
Right.
I did is I kept trying to find my spot. I thought
Mm.
that, I was in a nursing home, I was in a hospital, detox and recovery, home health, pediatrics, and even with hospice. So I had worked a lot of different areas of nursing trying to find a spot that I felt, good being involved in,
Mhm, mhm.
that I felt like I could give good care and do a good job by my patients.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And is the attachment hard to kind of um like in your mind kind of you go home and you constantly think about it?
Well, I would go home and always feel like I did a disservice, like I couldn't do everything that I needed to do for my patients, and I
Mhm,
felt terrible about it. I never went home feeling like I did a good job and people were saved because of me or anything like that,
mhm,
or even the team, it just seemed like we never had all that the patients needed, um, no matter where I worked, really.
mhm.
And this can be staff, time that they needed, or good treatment, or, more than just passing meds, time to really help them, um, other than just medicine and that, or, being rushed with every patient. But so it's the pediatric patients that I found that I felt the most. I would think of them more on a level of more than just patients.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
those are the ones that I would go home and think about, other things with them besides just patient care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was really difficult, more
Mhm.
so than losing patients that you expect to lose, really,
Yeah. Mhm.
like the ones in the nursing homes or the Alzheimer's patients or on hospice, of course. But the pediatric patients, even though they had a terminal illness and they're going to pass before they're an adult, it just really hits you hard, for
Mhm,
me
mhm.
anyway.
Yeah. And you spoke about uh doing pet sitting and so on.
Yeah.
Was that something that went along with that? Was that kind of a little bit of like an outlet almost, for everything?
It was just a way of bringing in something warm and fuzzy. I mean, just really, just to bring some joy into my life. I mean, I moved around a lot. I live in an apartment. I just, I don't have pets of my own.
Mm-hmm.
So I had some guinea pigs and that, but I don't anymore. But I love all animals, and I can't imagine my life now, especially not having something alive to take care of,
Yeah.
and I don't have grandchildren and my kids are grown. So I just love it so much. I just love being able to go to somebody else's house, give them peace of mind that somebody mature and responsible is there.
Yeah,
And, and I specialize in like elder pets or pets that are special needs or on medication, because I'm really comfortable with that. And I can go there and stay there the whole time they're gone, rather than like a lot of other pet sitters do also dog walking on a regular basis, and they'll go stay there and then they'll go walk some dogs and then they'll come back. But a lot of my pet sitting clients can't be left alone. So I'm there with them the whole time the family's away. And so, yeah, I love it so much.
Because some of those people you see, like they're walking like 5, 6, 7 dogs.
Right.
How is that possible?
I don't know. Yeah, I know. I don't even do dog walking. So, I mean, like that's all I do is I'm with one client at a time,
Have you ever came across a kind of pet that is just a little bit difficult to deal with? I mean, there's all these programs on. I don't know about the US, but certainly in the UK, there's like dog training programs you see on TV, and people go out to their house and try to sort things. And have you ever
I've seen those.
that?
Well, see, if I went to a house and the dog was just really unruly, I wouldn't take on that job.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I might, depending on the way the family was, I might suggest that they get some training.
Mm-hmm.
So one time I did have one that bit me, and it bit me on the back of my arm, actually. Not hard. Didn't even draw blood, but it made a big bruise. But this one just jumped and jumped like crazy, and it was a big dog, and it would jump and jump. I turned my back, because that's kind of what I do. If they're jumping on you, you turn your back, you just don't give them any attention, and hopefully they stop. But this one nipped at my arm then to try to get my attention. And I'm short, and this is a big dog, and it nipped at the back of my arm, and it felt like it drew blood, but it didn't, so luckily. But I told them that, I didn't feel safe there. Now I felt fear from the dog, and if I feel that, I'm not going there. Luckily, that was the last day. I think I was there just 3 or 4 days, and luckily that happened on the last day. So I was able to just let them know and say, I'm not comfortable coming back. And I did suggest some training.
Yeah. Because do you think that I know there's a lot of dogs that are just like that, where you go up the door and they're like that. Do you think it's bred into them, or do you think it is the way that they've been brought up?
No, I think it's definitely the way they're brought up. And this was probably 2021 with that dog. And a lot of times, so we were seeing a lot more dogs that were very anxious because of the pandemic. Their family was home all day and they weren't used to that, or they didn't get any kind of socialization in with other dogs or with people that they didn't know. So they were more anxious, just like a lot of people were. So I think that happened, but also, not even counting the pandemic, I think that you need to really, when you have a puppy or when you get a new dog, whatever the age is, you kind of have to do some training with it. You can't just let it be wild. A lot of times people think it's really funny. We'll see on YouTube videos or whatever, where the dogs are like just running around the house, crazy, crazy, crazy. And to me, it's kind of sad, because that dog needs a little more exercise in its life. That's not a funny thing. That dog just needs to release some energy. So I think that people need to know what their lifestyle is, be realistic about what kind of pet they can take on and add to their life, and know that this is another family member. You can't just have a dog to pet it and feed it and that's it. You have to give it what it needs for its life. Yeah.
Because especially when you mentioned the pandemic, even the other way, coming out of it, and people leaving the house, and then that's it. The pet's just left there.
Right. Yeah, they don't know what's going on. So it's both ways, but they were home all the time and they got a puppy. A lot of people got, they call them the pandemic
Yeah.
puppies and like
Yeah.
they call it pandemic babies. A lot of people had babies.
Yeah.
So but they're different. It's a different kind of a thing.
Mhm.
So a lot of these dogs, now all of a sudden, last year or whatever, people are going back to work and kids are going away to go to school again. And now these dogs are like, what the heck?
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah.
Where is everybody?
Totally. Well, as for the the hypnotherapy and all that we spoke about, do you have a website or something that people can visit?
I do. Thank you. It's hypnobreakthrough.com.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of information on just right on the first page, any kind of frequently asked questions that somebody might have about it. It's all there on that first page. But within there, there's also, I've been writing articles on there almost like for a blog with different mental health things. Of course, circling it back around to hypnotherapy, but but on that, it has its own page for articles and some of the interviews that I've been on like this, there's a page for that as well. And
no, well, I will certainly put that link in the description of the podcast anyway for anyone to have a look up. And well, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Thank you.
Such an interesting story. Thanks so much to Pamela as well for coming on the podcast. And that link for the Hypno Breakthrough website is in the description of this podcast as well. Don't forget, you can subscribe to get all the notifications, get all of the other episodes coming up in your newsfeed. And of course, please do leave a little review and a rating as well. Until next time.